Babaji, this is Janaki Ram here.
Haribol.
Haribol, Babaji. May I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
Are you working from a new edition of the Tattva Sandarbha? I see the book you have. I have this old. This is by Hari-katha Shastri. It's got Holiday and Ramaman and Torkishore. Is there a new printed edition?
No, this is just Sarva Saṁvādinī. Separate. This was printed by us.
Oh.
And there is one scholar. His name is Pandit Anand Gopal. He teaches here, but now he moved to Radhakund. We have a school at Radhakund also. So he has written commentary on it in Sanskrit.
Oh. Okay. Well, I will get that.
Published by Jiva Institute. So you have any question on what we did last time?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, so we are going to start here now. Advaitvadibhischa Uktam. So he has been talking about Veda being the pramana, that the Veda is the supreme authority. In fact, the only means to know the absolute reality, Bhagavan, God, Ishvara. And then he said that in the previous class we studied that tarka or logic is not an independent means. And if we depend only on logic, then we will not be able to have proper knowledge. And the reason for that is that tarka is not fixed. Things you prove something by logic now and then it can be disproven, and somebody else comes along and disproves that. So there was also this mantra from the Veda regarding that natam vidathaya ima jajana anyadismakam antaram babhuva niharena pravrita jalpa cha sutra bhukta shasas charanti. So there the word jalpa was glossed to mean as Tarkika logicians. So they were described as niharena pravrita, as if they are covered by fog, which indicates ignorance. And then he cited a statement from Varaha Purana. So now he says Advaitvadibhischa Uktam. So he says that Advaitvadis also say like this. And this is actually a sloka from Vakyapadiya, but cited by Vachaspati Misra. That's why he says Advaitvadibhischa Uktam. So yatnena apaditopyartha kushlairanumatribhi abhiyuktatarayanye ganthaeva paddhate. I think we did this last time. So this sloka is also in Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu, first chapter. And now he cites from Sankaracharya, Advait Sarirake api. So in the Shankar Bhashya and Vedanta Sutra 211, it is written as follows: Nacha shakyante atita anagata vartmanas tarkika ekasmin deshe kale cha samahritam yena tadiyam matam sammagyanamiti pratipadyemahi. So he says that because logicians, there are so many of them, unlike Veda is only one reading, but logicians are everywhere in all countries. So now every logician will say something different. So if we have to find one definite opinion on the base of logic, then what you have to do is that you have to bring all logicians in one place and at the same time, because you can also bring them in one place, but 15 are here today and 15 come tomorrow and 15 day after tomorrow, because they all have to come together in one place at one time and then discuss with each other, and whoever is the best, whoever wins, that opinion is going to be considered as the ultimate opinion established by logic. Otherwise, simply giving somebody's logical statement does not hold because someone else can refute it. So he says that such a thing is not possible. You cannot call all logicians of all the time, means in the past, in future. Okay, past forget. Whatever they have said, at least you may have something about them in writing, but to get all of them in the present, that itself is difficult, not possible. And thus it is not possible to get proper opinion of logicians. So this is what he's saying. Because unless they come together and they themselves agree that yes, this is what the ultimate reality is, because there will be different opinions whether it has form or it has no form. So, or whether there is actually God or not God. Because Buddhists also use logic. They also accept Anuman and Pratyaksha as Pramana. So they don't accept any God. So first we have to have a debate with them, and then whoever wins, then we have to see what is the conclusion. Then if somebody wins, okay, there is God, then we among God, whether God has a form or not form. And if he has a form, what is his body? So he says this is not possible. However, when it comes to Veda, he says Vedasya cha nityatve vijnanotpatti hetatve cha sati vyavasthita vishayarthatva upapatte. Says, but in case of the Veda, there is, number one, it is eternal, because as long as the humanity has existed or we have the record of knowledge, then Veda has not changed. There is no record that there was any change done in the Veda. So therefore, and it is understood that it is eternal. At least the followers of the Vedas, they accept it as Nitya, and it is considered as Vijnanotpatti Hetutva. It is causal in giving knowledge and also experience, Vijnan. Sati Vyavasthita Vishayarthatva Upapatti. So thus it is possible that it can give us a stable knowledge about the subject, which is here reality. So Vyavasthit means that it is not avyavasthit, which means doubtful, not clear, incomplete. So proper knowledge is given in the Vedas. तज्जनितस्य ज्ञानस्य च सम्यकत्वम् अतीत अनागत वर्तमानैः सर्वैरपि तार्किकैः अपहनोतुम् अशक्यम्. So the knowledge which is given by the Vedas, that is proper knowledge, and that knowledge cannot be refuted by the Tarkikas, logicians of the past, present or future. So he is making a claim about future also. Why? How can he make claim in future? Because Tarkika in future will be so many. One Tarkika will come and say one thing, another will say no, it's not like this. Because they will never have one definite opinion. So therefore he says that Tarkikail apnotum ashakyam, that they cannot deny or belie the knowledge given by the Vedas. It is irrefutable. Chalo, Tarkik.
Someone has to play devil's advocate.
Such a big breath you took.
I'll come wearing red. I just wanted to say obviously this is the hardest thing for, in my opinion, for a modern person. This is the hardest thing to accept, because we see knowledge as something that evolves according to more accurate.
But modern people are from what you call as modern.
I mean, for people that, as we are today.
Only.
In this very brief moment in time where we exist at the present moment.
So why they have?
An idea of
So why they have to be taken as authentic?
Pardon?
Why these modern people have to be taken as authentic? Why their opinion has to be considered as proper?
All right. Well, because we're speaking from the point of view of historical development over the last several hundred years. From this microcosm, just like I experienced my own life, I experienced my historical context also.
Yes.
So in my historical context is that there's that in Europe an idea of scientific empiricism arose, and the idea that one should not simply accept these stories that are in old Puranas and in old Vedas and everywhere else, and see that humans' thinking evolves and develops if one is intellectually incisive, that it will develop towards something that's rational and confirmed by facts.
So now my question too is that, okay, I agree that it evolves. So this evolution will come to an end somewhere, or it will keep on evolving?
Well, now that's it. Yeah, obviously. So this is a question that we don't know.
So then, if you do not know,
speaking as an empiricist, though, I would say that yes, we don't know where it's going to go. But we
so
can
therefore,
imagine.
if you don't know, and you say that it will keep on evolving, so that means what you think now, tomorrow it will evolve, and it will not be the right knowledge.
Yes.
Just like you are saying that historically we have evolved,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
So therefore your opinion now, what you are saying is not acceptable as truth, because it is going to evolve.
Because
The truth does not evolve, right?
Babaji,
Yes.
I think the argument
I would have to say, because that's,
Okay.
I want to answer that
You have a
question.
support.
Just let me finish the answer to that question, because you asked that question and you stopped me for a moment. And I think that truth obviously is situational. Like the truth of a person living in America in the 21st century, and the truth of someone living in the 10th century in India. Is that necessarily
No, we are not talking about
the same truth? You know,
let's not talk about. We are talking about the basic principles. You have to understand what is the topic. I mean, Veda is not talking about truth in 10th century and truth in 15th century. Veda is talking about the basic truth which upholds this world, what we call as absolute truth. First of all, you may say, well, there is no absolute truth. So if that is the case, then there is no need for you to argue with us, because we are accepting that there is absolute truth. And if you think there is no absolute truth, then we are in two different fields.
Well, I don't say, I'm speaking from kind of my own individual position.
So now in science we have certain principles which they consider as absolute. Like, for example, law of gravitation, right?
Yeah.
So this is considered as something which is unchanging. Although in gravity also they do say that it changes, but generally speaking, or say for example they have, what is that constant they utilize in the astronomy? I forgot the name of that. Some constant is there.
Like,
So those things are considered as unchanging, right? So that's what we are saying, that science is accepting that there are certain things which don't change, on the basis of which they have laws of motion. Otherwise they cannot make it as a law. So similarly, Veda is saying that behind this nature there are also certain laws which science does not talk about. For example, law of karma or reincarnation. Science doesn't say anything about it. So this knowledge your Tarkic cannot give. So you may say, well, I don't accept it, that is fine. But that does not mean that I am not allowed to accept it because it is my experience. You cannot deny that. Whether you are modern or not modern, whether you are saying that your intelligence has evolved or not evolved. I have also my experience based on Vedas, and I understand and I have experienced that there is a law of karma. And there is life which does not come to an end with death. So now can you deny that? And can you say that it will evolve and become something else? That's what I am saying, certain unchanging truths. There may be some things which change. I mean, you are saying truth in 10th century. I don't know what truth you are hinting at. I have no idea. Maybe certain customs.
The truth, obviously, the idea of the absolute truth would also have changed.
No, in 10th century also they accepted Vedas as we are accepting now. It did not change.
This is my second part of my question, because really the two go together. But I mean, the Vedas themselves, when nobody pays attention to the. I mean, what do we, other than maybe the Purusha Sukta once in a while, or the one other mantra from the Vedas, we don't really.
It doesn't matter whether you pay attention or not attention.
No, I mean to say that we don't. But even if you do, if you study the Vedas, you don't. It's a lot harder, let's say, for us who are more, let's say, in Vaishnava development.
Yeah. So therefore, Jiva Goswami will come to that. That Veda has this original, and it may be hard to understand. He says himself. He says then Veda has also, in the form of the Puranas, which are also called Pancham Veda, Itihas Puranam, Pancham Vedam.
So that's what I'm saying is evolution. So
it is not an evolution. It has been there. This is what he proves, that from the same Yajurveda, the Puranas also came from the mouth of the Brahma. For you it is an evolution. For us it is not. It's not an evolution. The Puranas are mentioned in Brihadaranyaka and this Chandogya Upanishad. Right? Itihas Puranam cha. Pancham Veda Uchyate. When Narada goes to Sanat Kumara, he gives a list of all things. He has Purana Itihasa also mentioned there. So it is your concept of evolution, because that's what you believe in, and we don't believe in that. So you have built up your theory of evolution. We also have our theory.
But the idea, you see, that I'm sorry, I don't want to take away from the class, but I guess I'm bringing the questions out. But the idea, so, all right, let me stop. Since I gave up, but I'll probably ask it later.
Okay.
I'm saying that nobody pays attention to the Veda, and so that shows an evolution in the way that people think about the truth.
Yeah, but those who are not paying attention, they are not denying it, and they are not saying that now this part of Veda is not applicable to us, we have evolved. It is just that they say that, well, for us it is difficult to understand it, and same author of the Vedas who divided one Veda into 4, he has given us another set of knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So, Istri Vasya Dujbandhunam Trayina Suti Gochara.
Yeah.
Karm Shreyasi Mudhanam Shreya Eva Bhavedya Bharatiti Akhyanam Kripya Munina Kritam.
Yeah.
So that Muni, he himself out of grace gave the same knowledge in a different way. Now it is not an evolution of knowledge, it's an evolution of presentation. That's all. The way it is presented, and that is of course the expertise of a teacher, that he will present it according to the capability of the students. So it is our belief, like your belief is that your intelligence is evolving and you are becoming smarter than what people were 200, 500, 1,000 years ago, and we are saying that we are devolving. People were more smart before, that they could memorize the whole Veda, right? So manda sumanda matiyo, right? So that is our understanding, and we don't match. So now, because the intelligence, the level of intellect has gone down, and I see it practically, the people of 50 or 100 years before, I have seen so many people in my life, they had such fantastic memory, and now you may say there are some people who still have, but most people were like that before. They were not using, and this is, that now with iPhone your memory is going down. Previously you could remember so many, even I used to know so many phone numbers by heart, Now I don't know my own phone number. Sometimes people ask me, what's your phone number? I have to actually check. So with this, your memory level is going down because everything is written down, everything is there in computer. So when everything is in computer, then it is, I don't need to remember. When I went to study Nyaya from my Nyaya teacher, Sri Somasranji, so I went with the recorder, and when he saw it, he got so angry at me. And he said, if you want to study from me, stop this, otherwise get out from here. He says, this is nonsense. Just hear what I am saying. So otherwise what happens, that you just record it and keep it and you don't pay attention. Now when you cannot record, you have to actually pay attention. And this develops your intellect. So now the intellect of people is that they cannot even remember tables. You ask what is 13 multiplied by 9, they will look for the some calculator. So you may call this as an evolution, but we think that it is going down. That's our experience. You have your experience that we were monkeys and apes. I don't know when we were monkeys and apes. Monkeys were monkeys only. Whenever they were, no monkey became a human being. There is no. I don't see any proof. Which monkey became first human being? You can prove with the bones whatever you want to say, but which monkey who was monkey, and then that monkey became a human being, or that monkey gave birth to a human being? I can't understand this. Which monkey gave birth to human? Either that monkey himself has to become a human being, or some monkey has to give birth to a human being and then the human race came into existence. Is it possible? I don't believe this. No matter how much you have your theory of evolution. And then how this human being started speaking? Which came first? Thought came first, or the language came first?
So you accept the Bhagavatam version of creation literally?
Yes.
With Brahma and
yes, of course.
And
that's what I accept.
People giving birth to animals and
yes, just genes. I mean, you can create. Well, he's a genealogist, Now you have with genes, you mix, you can create. That's what scientists are doing. They take gene of this person, that person, do something, all kinds of experiments they are doing. So Daksha, that's why it's called Daksha. He's expert in that. So he created. That's why they're called Prajapati. That is the knowledge they got from the Veda. And why it is not possible?
How does knowledge like that get lost?
Knowledge gets lost when people don't study. Or it is.
If you had such miraculous powers, then people would.
Power is of a human being, and that human being is not eternal. Then another human being is born, and if that person is not interested in studying, then it will get lost. I mean, I know Ayurvedic doctors, they knew so many things, and then their own children were not interested in learning it, so that knowledge went with them. In the villages, illiterate people used to know so many medicines. I know this, all types of things. Now we talk of reflexology. I am telling you this practical example. I had some kind of problem. Maybe I am going too much away from the lecture. Sorry. So some kind of thing was growing here on top of my thigh, and I was not able to walk. So my mother said, "Oh, you go to that lady, she will massage." I went. She was massaging my other foot, not the one which had it, and it got cured. So now, long ago, afterwards, somewhere I was reading that there is something called reflexology, and you have pain and you actually treat the other side and it works. There's a modern research for this. Now this lady never went to school or anything. I don't know from where she learnt it, but it worked. But now that knowledge is dead because there's nobody who continued it. But that means once upon a time there must have been some school of thought like this, from which something trickled down, some practical part, and there may be many other parts got lost like that. And now this is also gone. I remember it because it happened to me, therefore I can talk, but other people would not even know now. So
But
so many
this is actually all over the world. This is what you're talking about, because my grandmother used to do the same things. And then my shiatsu sensei, once I studied, he explained some things that my grandmother knew, and they just lived in different parts of the world.
Yeah. So these things were there.
It's like that.
And so many witches were burnt in Europe.
But that's one more. No, because what I wanted to say before also.
Okay,
is
first
exactly
ask
what she's
Jankiram
saying.
because
All right.
I hope he gets upset.
All right.
We are
I'm sorry.
hijacking his
Okay,
class.
I'll save it for another time. Sorry.
I'm not upset. I'm happy to listen.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Well, the question was that, just like Anna said, that Anna was saying that different cultures. So we have different scriptures also. So just like we have Vedas, so there's also all these other.
You don't talk of scriptures. You are a Tarkika. You are a modern person, so don't talk of scriptures.
That's what I'm saying. But yes, exactly. As a modern person, so I look at this person. I say that this person has this one. This person has of this culture here. They have their creation story. You go to the Aborigines. They have their creation story. And so, what do you do with all this variegated information? You can't take it all.
So therefore, here,
the story is different.
So here the praman is, as they say, the proof is in the proof of pudding is in eating. So arthakriya karitva. What gives you the result? What they say, because it is not just saying. Creation theory is one thing, but Veda is not only to teach you creation. Atra sarga prasarga visargasya sthanam poshanam utaya manvantari shanukatha nirodha muktir ashraya. So they also talk about mukti part and ashraya part. So that is the practical part. So which is giving you that process by which you can actually attain the ultimate goal of life, which is happiness, eternal happiness. That you can compare. Because it doesn't matter how the universe was created, Big Bang or not, it's none of my headache, It doesn't matter to me. Whether Brahma created or there was a Big Bang, it's fine with me. Although I would say that it is Brahma who did the Big Bang, So science also has truth. It's not that science is completely wrong, I don't say. And I don't say that evolution has no truth in it. But it is not the complete truth. Complete,
well, of course, this is what
truth
I
here.
say, because you just did the verse Satyam Param, the Satyavratam, Satyasya Satyam, Satyanetam, Satyatmam Tam, Sharanam Prapanna. So this, in that verse, of course, the idea is that we take truth as being primary, Satyam Param Dhimahi, and that somehow or other, Satyameva Jayate, that the truth stands above all. So now, if we're going to take the truth as above all, so we have the truth, and then we make the other information, just like Jiva Goswami does. It has to follow in the line. It has to follow in the line of the basic truth. So if you take X as being the fundamental truth of the Bhagavatam, then everything else has to be made to agree with X. So that if something appears to not agree with X, then you have to show by other pramanas, internal pramanas, external pramanas, wherever you get them, that in actual fact that X is being supported by the other statements.
Yeah, because that is the samanvaya, tattva samanvayat. There is a thread which goes through all this. That is one.
Says the job gets very big when you have the whole Veda to do it with.
Yes. So that Vyasa himself has done. That's why he gave the sutras.
Okay. Vira.
Okay. So Prakritam Anusarama. Let's come back to our original topic. So anyway, he says that sarvairapi tarkikair apnotum ashakyam. That even if all the tarkikas come together, all logicians, they cannot defy the Veda's authority. They cannot disprove it. They can say whatever they want to say, but they cannot disprove it. यत्तु आगमे क्वचित् तर्केण बोधना दृश्यते तत्रैव शोभनम् आगम रूपत्वात् बोधन सौकर्यार्थ मात्र उद्दिष्ट तर्कत्वात्. So now we say, well, tarka is also seen in the shastra. It is not that shastra does not give any tarka. So he says that tarka is there for us to understand. It is not that logic is completely useless. What he is, just as I am saying, it is not that science is useless or evolution is completely false. There is truth. But it is not ultimate. It is not complete truth. So similarly, you cannot get complete knowledge simply by tarka, but tarka has its role to play, it has its importance, and it is very important for understanding. So therefore he says that tarkena bodhana drishyate, that comprehension or that education or transfer of knowledge which is seen to be given by tarka, tatraiva shobhanam. He says its beauty is there in the shastra only, not independently. So tarka is beautiful in its place when it is to understand shastra. So then it has its beauty, its importance. Otherwise, says it is not agam rupatvat, because then it is part of agam only, that kind of tarka. So yat tarkena anusandhatte savedana. Now as Manu says that one who studies with tarka, he is the one who understands and not one who not. So yas tarkena anudhatte sa dharma veda nayatara. So he says that you must use tarka to study, but arsha dharma upadesam cha veda shastra avirodhina. Tarka should not go against the arsh, means the works of the sages, and dharma upadesha, the smriti, and veda shastra avirodhina.
Is that just in the text?
No, that's not in the text. So that's Manu who says, Manu Smriti. So tarka therefore is very important. Even a person like Manu is saying how one has to, because when it comes to dharma also, then there are situations where logic has to be used, because you see contradictory statements, situations come, you don't know whether this has to be done or that has to be done. So then logic is helpful at that time. It tells you, because tarka means that which cuts, which removes ignorance. That is also the meaning of tarka. So bodhan saukarya artha matro uddishta tarkatvat. So that tarka, that logic which is given in shastra, it is for easy comprehension, and it is only for that purpose that it is utilized. Yadi cha yat tarkena siddhyati tadeva vedavachanam pramanam iti syat tada tarkaiva astam. So now somebody says, well, that which can be proven by Tarka, let that be the Ved Praman. Only that Ved Vachan is Praman. Only those statements of the Vedas are authentic which can be proven by Tarka and not otherwise. So therefore let Tarka be the ultimate authority. Tarka eva astam. Kim Vedena? So in fact he says that what can be proven by Tarka, let that be the Veda. And no need of this Veda. Iti Vedic manya api te bahya eva iti ayam abhipraya sarvatre. So he says anyone who speaks like that, he is not a Vedika, he doesn't accept Veda, he is only Ved bahya. Ateva tesham srigalatvam eva gatir ityuktam bharate. So such people will become jackals in their next life.
I was thinking how well you'd explained the question.
So therefore one thing is for sure, because there is a lot of fear these days that tigers are becoming extinct or some tortoises are becoming extinct. The jackals will never become extinct. Because the Tarkikas are going to be jackals.
Babaji, pranams.
Yes.
May I ask a question on this point?
Yes.
So the Vedic knowledge talks about Satyam Paramadhimai, and there is also a component which talks about situation in this world. For the Laukika part, for example, things which deal with this world, for example, rains and so on. Now, it may be possible for the modern day Tarkists to use science and say that we can predict the rains using our models and computational methods, let's say for 7 days and so on. In those 7 days, you do a yagya or you don't do a yagya, you are going to get the rain or you are not going to get rain because this is the direction of the clouds, this is the wind direction, satellite data and so on. But they can't do it for more than a week or so, maybe more, at most like a month, not more than that. But still, wouldn't that, if they say that prediction, because you can predict this, the fact that your intervention of yagyas will have no bearing on it because this is just physics. There is nothing mystical about it.
So who is saying that it is mystical?
So for example, when it says like when you do yagya, you get rains, like where...
Yeah, so you have to understand that. I mean, every day I can predict what time the food will come because Dada shouts. So do you think that his shouting is the cause of the food? No, that's not the cause. There's a whole thing behind it. But I can predict by hearing his voice or by seeing when they are coming to the kitchen. I can predict when the food will be there, but that does not mean that the food is produced by that. So simply because they can predict does not mean that they are creating rain. So, and then things, as I am saying, that law of karma is not that okay, I push this table and because of that it is moving. I do something now and the result comes much later. And everybody accept this, that not that every action you perform you get the result now. You plant a seed, the fruit does not come immediately. Maybe you plant the seed and
Babaji.
Your children will eat. Yes.
So he said prediction, there were many predictions basically. They are doing it, they are totally a failure. We had a 1,000,000-year storm was coming and there was not a single inch of snow. There were many historical data where their predictions were completely bogus. So
anyway, let's not think,
I see.
I'm not even saying that. I'm accepting that, okay, they can make prediction. What I'm saying is that simply making prediction does not mean that they know. Prediction you can make simply seeing the data. You collect the data for many years and then you make a prediction on the basis of that. Just like they predict stock market. Right? So that does not mean that they know how the stock market is happening. They just study and with that they make predictions. You can have a computerized program for that. But that does not mean that, this stock market or rain is just according to what they are saying. There are so many factors involved in it. So yajna is also one of the factors. Just as your predictions go wrong, why do they go wrong? Because the factors on which you are basing your predictions are not the only factors. There are some other factors. Behind every result, there are so many factors involved. So yajna is one of the factors. There may be other factors, probably those are the factors which you are talking about, and yajna is the factor which we are talking about. So just like if I say that bread is made from grains, right? So will you say I am wrong? No, nobody will say. If I say, well, bread is made from grain, nobody will say it is wrong. I mean, I'm talking about this bread which is made from this grain. There may be so many types of breads, but it is not made simply from grain. There are so many other ingredients also. If there is no water, you cannot make it. If there is no machine to grind the grain, you cannot make it. If there is no fire, there is no cook, you have everything but you don't have the pots. So there are what you call ingrediential cause and there are instrumental causes. So yajna is an instrumental cause. What you are making prediction is based on the ingrediential cause, that okay, heat is there and the water evaporates. This is also written in our Shastra. It's not that this part is not mentioned. This part is also mentioned, that heat evaporates the water and then it makes the clouds and it rains. But that is the ingrediential, because cloud is made from the vapor coming from the waters. But what about the nimitta karan? Sorry, I'm saying instrumental, but really it is nimitta. There is also nimitta karan. So yajna is not making rain as we are thinking and say, look, these people didn't even know they are so stupid. That how this yajna is going to make a rain? Because it is nimitta. After all, when the clouds are there, then some process of seedling has to happen. And they have done experiments that yajna does create some kind of bacteria and that can start rain. So it's only an instrumental cause in that sense. And if you go beyond that, there are more involvement, because nature also works on certain principles and that nature becomes favorable when you perform yajna. But that's a lengthy process. And yajna does not only mean this one type of yajna, just doing yajna is a very broad term. Even being truthful is yajna, studying Shastra is a yajna, right? We know this is Jnana yajna. In Bhagavad Gita, so many types of yajnas are mentioned. Performing your respective duties is also yajna. Studying Shastra is yajna. So there are so many factors which are involved. It is not just easy to say, well, how is this bringing rain? So these Shastric people, when they are saying something, they are not as ignorant as we think. They have a much bigger vision, and their interest is not making this kind of prediction. Their interest is something higher. Their interest is to look after the complete nature. Now we are talking about COVID and don't touch this, don't touch that. Whatever you are doing, Indians were already doing that. Washing hands and not touching this and not eating at this time, standing distance, not kissing whenever you meet somebody. Now they are saying, do namaste. Indians were already doing namaste. This kissing business was not there in India. So they also understood some of these things before, that this can cause disease. Ayurveda has so many things. When you study that, they talk all about even bacteria in the intestines. So anyway, please think what he says, that Tarkikas become jackal. So there is a story in Mahabharata that there was one Brahmana. He was educated in the Vedas, but he was poor. So one day he was walking and there was some rich man who was coming with his horse or bullock, whatever, chariot. So he came and he, out of pride, he kicked this Brahmana. So this Brahmana became very distressed. He says, look, just because he has wealth, he is disrespecting me, and I am only studying these Vedas, but I don't have money. So he felt unhappy. And he went to forest and he thought, I want to give up this life. So when he was planning to give up his life, then Indra, he took compassion on him and he came in the form of a jackal. And he started talking to him. And he says, why do you want to destroy this human body after so much of evolution from amoeba onwards? He became a human being. Look, I am still not evolved, I am jackal. I don't have hands. And then he was explaining how much suffering a jackal has to go. He says, if I wander here in the forest, if a thorn goes into my body, I cannot get it out because I don't have hands. If a mosquito bites me, I cannot do anything. So much problem. And you human beings, you can walk, you can talk, you have hands. You have such a facility just because you have hands. And we don't have. So don't give up your human body, which is so precious, and after millions and millions of evolution you have become this human being, and now you want to kill it and go back and become jackal. So the Brahmana asked him that he speaks so nice words, very smart, how come you are so intelligent? And he says, well, I was a Tarkik in my past life. So these are some of the slokas he has quoted here. From there. Aham asam panditako hetuko vedanindaka anvikshikim tark vidyam nirakto nirarthikam. He says, I was a scholar. Hetuka means logician. And Vedanindaka, and I will criticize Vedas. And I was always absorbed in Anvikshiki, this logic. So I was very attached to that, and then he said that because of that I became Jaka.
What's the source?
Mahabharata.
What Shanti Bhagavad? What chapter?
Moksha Dharma 180. Chapter 180.
Yeah, I must have
Babaji, this jackal example is given because jackal is very timid. It just runs away or because of its timidity.
Alright, jackal has got problems in the forest. If the thorn goes into his body, he cannot take it out. What timidity are you talking about? So yattu shrotavya mantavya ityadishu mananam nam tarko angikritah tatrevam eva uktam yatha kurma purane. So now he says that look, it is not that tarka is not accepted or not necessary, because it's there in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Atma vare drashtavya shrotavya mantavya nidadhyasitavya natre. So Atma has to be seen, heard, mantavya. So mantavya means to deliberate with logic, what is right, what is wrong, etc. So he says this mananam, by the word mananam, the tarka has been accepted in the Upanishad. And thus it is said as follows in the Kurma Purana. What is said there? Purva para avirodhine ko du artho abhimato bhavet ityadyam gunam tarkaha shushka tarkam cha varjayet. So tarka is very important for understanding the true intent of a shastra, such as Bhagavad Gita. So if you study Bhagavad Gita, it is not easy to understand what really is one thing that Krishna wants to ultimately convey. Because he talks about Karma Yoga, he talks about Raj Yoga, he talks about Jnana Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, right? Bhakti Yoga. So he's speaking on so many things and he seems to praise everything. So what is that he really is trying to convey? So he says that you have to study Purva, Apara, Avirodhena, Konu Artho Abhimato Bhavet. What is said earlier, what is said in the end, there should be no contradiction between them. That is the proper meaning. Not that you take something, you said, oh, this is what you said, but this may contradict another part. So that which does not contradict the different parts, and that for that you need to study with logic. You have to apply logic. So this is what Purvamimamsa sutras speak about. Because especially, yes.
May I ask a question about this?
Yeah.
So in the West, this debate about science and religion and philosophy, it's generally described as theology. Theology is faith seeking and understanding, using reason to understand the faith. So, Christians will use reason to understand how to relate modern science with their scripture. Jews do the same thing. What I'm hearing from you is that Tarka is not rejected because of all these passages, because Tarka can be used to understand the Veda. But if you look at Tarka as the ultimate goal in itself, if you just say, Tarka is its own Purushartha, then that's a jackal
Yes.
consciousness.
Right. That is barking. He was saying why jackals example, because jackals, they cry at night with their mouth up in the sky and they make the whoo sound. Yes.
So maybe would you say Shraddha plus Tarka equals Mimamsa? Is that what would you call this practice of using Tarka to understand the Veda? In the West, we would call that, I think, pretty clearly theology. That's what theology is, sort of the logic of God, or the logic of.
So there, here it is called Mimamsa.
Mimamsa, yeah.
Yeah. Mimamsa means Pujya Vichar.
Could you say that word again?
Pujya Vichar.
Pujya Vichar.
Which means deliberation with respect. Because you can also deliberate to attack, to criticize. So Mimamsa, if you study the commentary of Shabar Swami, then he writes, even Vachaspati Misra also writes like that Mimamsa means Pujya Vichar. So that means that you have faith that this is true, but now wherever you see the contradiction between this part, that part, then you deliberate. Not that you strike this part off and take that like Arya Samaj has done. So then that is not Mimamsa. Or it is also called Anvikshiki, sometimes Anvikshiki. But Mimamsa probably is a better word.
Just a small follow-up question to that. Would you say that the Gaudiya Acharyas also engage in Mimamsa as you're defining it now?
Yeah. Yes. This is what Jiva Goswami has done. The Sandarbhas. Sandarbha is Mimamsa of Bhagavatam. So what he has done is that okay, Bhagavatam is speaking so many things if you just study it. But what is the intention of the author? So that's how he systematically starts. First he establishes Bhagavatam, of course, why he wants to study Bhagavatam, and then what is Bhagavatam? What is the Paribhasha Sutra for Bhagavatam? So then he says that we should study Vyasa Samadhi. So then he analyzes Bhakti Yogena Mamsi Samyak Pranite Malaya Pashat Purusham Purnam Mayam Chatatapasha Yasam Mohito Jiya Atmanam Trigunaatmakam Paropi Manute Tatkritam Chavipadyate. So he takes these verses and then he analyzes and he comes out with the conclusion. Now he says that this is my litmus test. Even Sridhar Swami, although he has respect for Sridhar Swami, people say, oh, Jiva Goswami is going against Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he doesn't accept Sridhar Swami everywhere. No, he is not going against. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the one who accepted Bhagavatam as the authority, and Jiva Goswami takes that. So now, if Sridhar Swami says something which doesn't match with Vyasa Samadhi, then that is not accepted. So therefore he comes with this idea that he has done this to attract the Advaitavadis. That's his explanation. He doesn't say that he is wrong. So that becomes the test. So that's why this idea of Achintya Bheda Bhed is also not that he has just coined it independently. It is also based on Bhagavatam, because Bhagavatam does speak about Achintya Sahasra Shakti in the prayers of Daksha, I think, and few other places the word Achintya is used, that God has got thousands of inconceivable potency, and that's what he uses, the word Achintya. So he doesn't say that it is Vishishta Advaita or whatever Shuddha Advaita. He says it's Achintya. So people say, oh, he's just trying to evade and just bring another terminology. So he's fixed on Bhagavatam.
Just one more, just to clarify also a little bit the usage of the word Mimamsa. So I mean, there's Purva Mimamsa as a genre in a text, and Uttar Mimamsa.
I'm talking about Purvamimamsa only. I mean, Purvamimamsa is the one which brought out the rules for doing this. And therefore Vedanta is also called Uttaramimamsa. It is also Vichar. One by Gemini, other by... Because Veda, as we know, has got Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda. These are the two divisions of the Veda. So Gemini has done the Vichar from the Karma point of view, and Vyasa has done from the Jnana point of view. So therefore there are two Mimamsas.
And this idea of Mimamsa as Puja Vichar cannot be equated even with like the Pariprashna of Tadvini, Paripatina, Pariprashna.
Yeah, anywhere, whatever. Any vichar which you do with faith in Shastra, that is Mimamsa. And it is necessary. That's what Sri Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami writes in the Adi Leela somewhere. Na kare alas, na kare alas, right? So he says that. So that's where he's saying that do Mimamsa. That is the meaning. Don't be lazy.
So could you equate it with like in the 64 Bhakti-Angas with Sadharma Pricha?
Yes. Okay, anything else? Alright, we'll stop here.